So good morning, very warm welcome to all of you. My job now at this point in time is to invite the most respected Principal Secretary of Higher Education Department, Dr. Sharmila Mary Joseph, to inaugurate today's program. In a program in the sense that we are going to start the new batch of the PCM for the year 2026-27. And while I welcome all of you, I take this opportunity, first of all, of welcoming dear Madam, our Principal Secretary who heads the Department of Higher Education. Let me just say a sentence about her. There is too much. You can all check up, at the executive sheet of the IAS and find out Madam's credentials. First of all, let me tell you that she is a medical doctor by training, and she was a topper of her batch in Kottayam Medical College. And after that, she joined the IAS. So, apart from many other things that she holds to her credit, her credentials, she's also done MA in Public Administration from Maxwell School, Syracuse University in US. She has held very, very challenging positions, very, very important and significant positions in both the state government of Kerala and also the government of India, including the most prestigious office of our country, the Prime Minister's office. So she holds, not only her academic degrees and her qualifications, but she's one of the rarest officers that we have in the state of Kerala, where she has held the highest office in the country, led it from the front, and been in Government of India for a significant portion of her time, as also equally significant portion of time she has spent in Government of Kerala. She has led many departments, very, very challenging and always donning multiple caps. So she holds at a time 3 charges, 4 charges. But one of the charges that we all fondly remember her for, apart from many others, of course, was her district collectorship. And the most prestigious, the most far-reaching department which has got to do with the people of Kerala, the grassroots functioning of the democratic institutions in Kerala, which is the local self-government department. We call it in short the LSGD. So she has held the highest position in LSGD. She has won several national as well as state awards. And if I go on, I think I will have to spend a minimum period of 10 minutes, but she has a very urgent meeting to attend today at 10:25. So we will lose time if I speak more about her. All of you, I would suggest that you all know about her, right? So we are extremely privileged, and I deem it a matter of personal honor and pride that she has given her valuable time for inaugurating this batch with her grace and blessings. I'm sure, this batch will stand to gain a lot, get her insight. She is, apart from anything else, a big motivator too. So I'm sure we are all, eagerly waiting to hear, Madam. With those words, on behalf of the Kerala State Civil Services Academy, CCK, and all my team here, and also on behalf of all of you who are present here, parents as well as aspirants, I welcome Madam to inaugurate the session.
Good morning, Ishita ma'am, Director CCEK Kerala, other office bearers and staff of CCEK, my dear young aspirants, young civil service aspirants, dear parents, colleagues and friends. So at the outset, I should apologize to Ishita ma'am and to all of you that I have not been there in person. I had promised Madam that I would be there in person to inaugurate the session, but something urgent came up, so I had to come to Ernakulam yesterday evening. So therefore, I am joining virtually to inaugurate the session. But since your program would be for a year or more than that, I think there would be ample opportunities for me to come there and meet all of you in person, talk to you, interact with you, and perhaps take one or two sessions as well. And I would also like to thank Ishita ma'am for the very warm introduction, the exaggerated version of, my career and my, achievements, which madam had mentioned. Thank you very much, ma'am. And I would also like to mention to the young aspirants attending this program that Ishita ma'am has an even more checkered career in the civil service, in the Indian Administrative Service. And madam was an officer of the 1991 batch, and she also had held very important assignments both in the state government and government of India, and even in government of Chhattisgarh, where she had gone on inter-cadre deputation. And in fact, before I took over charge of higher education department, Ishita ma'am was the principal secretary of higher education department, I think for more than 2 years. And she had also had a stint in the higher education department, government of India, before she came back to the state in 2016 or 17. So therefore, you are fortunate that you have at the helm of CCEK an officer who has a total view of the education system of the country, having worked in higher education department in government of India as well as in the government of the state. So therefore, madam would be able to guide all of you, steer you through this long process of preparation for the civil services exam. So I understand that we have around 70 to 80 students, 70 to 80 young aspirants who have joined this program, the long-term PCM program for 26-27, and that you are all preparing for, or you have all decided to sit for the civil services exam of 2027. So the civil service exam, as all of you know, is perhaps the longest, exam, the longest competitive exam, an exam which spans over quite a few months, personality test. And perhaps, as you all know, as all of you know, we have more than 2 lakh candidates who sit for the exam every year, who prepare for the exam, who study, who spend hours every day, many hours every day, who spend weeks and months and perhaps sometimes years to prepare for this exam and to crack this exam. So this is an exam which tests your, not just your knowledge, but your perseverance, your consistency in preparation, your discipline, your in fact your the way you prepare, the way you organize your planning, the way you arrange your thought processes, the way you prepare your calendar for say 1 year, the way you choose your subjects, and come up with analytical descriptions of what the questions are about. So when we look at the civil service exam preparation, become an officer, acting like when your mind tells you that you have already become your mind, a sense of discipline, a sense of planning, a sense of organizing your way of preparation, your way of working, your way of studying. So that discipline, that structured planning, the structured preparation would perhaps be the first step that would prepare you for this long marathon journey. When we read the success stories of successful candidates, most of you would have read the interviews of many successful candidates, the interviews of the toppers of recent years. So many of them, I also happened to look through some of those before speaking to you today. And when we look at their motivational speeches, when we listen to the motivational speeches by successful candidates, by the toppers, the point that comes to us again and again is that is their level of confidence, their level of perseverance, their level of preparation, their level of consistency, the level of the intensity of their preparations. So what comes out from all that, is that when we attempt or when we prepare to attempt for an exam which is like a marathon race, which is not like a sprint race, when we prepare for an exam where the track is very very long, where the hurdles may be many, where the hurdles may be high, we should not lose the sense of confidence that we need to have. We should not lose the sense of discipline that we should have. We should be consistent in the way we plan. We should be consistent in the way we structure our preparation saga. We should be consistent in the way that we prepare, we organize the training material, we organize the subjects, we organize the books, we organize the notes, and then we go about. So some aspirants or some successful candidates have mentioned, planning for civil services is like 80% consistency and 20% strategy. Yes, we need to have a strategy. And when we draw out this strategy, we need to also look at the success stories of toppers, of successful candidates of the recent years as well. So when we look at the whole exam perspective, you should all be thinking as to why you are taking this exam. Some of you would have the big dreams that by taking this exam and by clearing the civil service exam, you would be able to serve society, you would be able to serve the nation, you would be able to serve the state to which you are allotted, you would be able to understand the aspirations of the people, you would be able to come to terms with the ground realities. If there is poverty, if there is malnutrition, if the health services are not reaching some parts of the country, if the education services in the say primary education field is not up to the mark, or if the delivery of services is not up to the mark, if people are not able to uh, raise their grievances to the authorities, and if the authorities are not giving a patient hearing to the petitioners, if the authorities are not able to actually understand the issues faced by the people, these are the questions that would be cropping up in your mind, coming up in your mind when you think of civil service as a career. Civil service as a career, as madam also mentioned, gives you different opportunities to serve society. So if you join the administrative service, the Indian administrative service or the state administrative services, in the initial years you would be working in the subdivisions, in the districts. Then you would be moving to departments at the state government level, and say after 10 to 15 years you would be donning the role of secretary to the state government, where you would have a role in planning and preparing the policy for the state government based on the policy inputs of the government in power. So the civil service offers a broad canvas of action for those who are able to join the civil service. So even if you are working in a small area in the beginning, a small geographical area in the beginning, if you are able to answer the requirements of the people there, if you are able to ensure that the projects drawn up by the small department that you are holding uh, would give answers or would give solutions to the problems of the people, then you would have won half the battle. You would have won, the or you would have met the requirements of the people there. So this is one of the main, call for action that civil servants have to take up. And I believe most of you, when you have decided to sit for the civil service exam, when you have decided to take the exam, when you have decided to prepare for the civil service exam, this would be one thought that would be guiding you, that when you clear the exam, you would be able to serve society better. You would be able to bring in changes in the society. You would be able to bring in changes in the way governments function. You would be able to bring in new digital innovations, new technological innovations, which would make government services more people friendly, more transparent, more efficient, and more effective. So these are the thoughts which guide you as you prepare for the exam. And when these thoughts guide you, when these points inspire you, you also need to prepare your strategy for preparing for the exam. So how do you prepare your strategy? How do you prepare your action plan? The civil service exam has three stages: the preliminary part, the mains part, and then the final part of personality test and interview. So the preliminary exam, I think you have two papers, on one on general studies, and the second one is the CSAT. So you know how you need to prepare for the prelims, because it is a multiple choice kind of exam where you need to have an overall idea of Indian polity, Indian history, world politics, economy, then about the development programs being implemented in the states as well as in other states, the main policies of the state government and central government, the newer innovations in government, the role of government in service delivery and in citizen centric activities. So the general studies paper 1 covers a whole gamut of topics, for which you need to have a whole, an overall understanding of these different subjects. So this 1 year program that CCEK is organizing, I believe, has structured modules which would help you to get an overall picture of most of the important topics, most of the important subjects which would come up, or which would be covered in the general services paper 1, and the general studies paper 1. Then the general studies paper 2, or the CSAT, has questions which test your numerical ability, questions which test your reasoning powers, questions which test your analytical powers, questions which also test your speed, questions which test you whether you are able to take decisions, whether you are able to come to decisions. So what is generally required in GS1 and GS2, I believe, as you prepare the subjects, also keep practicing, keep doing multiple practice tests, multiple practice sessions, which would help you to fine tune your skills for decision making, which would help you fine tune your thought processes to arrive at analytical answers for complex problems that are placed as part of the question paper in the CSAT exam. And also, an important factor is time management, because in civil service, in the work that one discharges as a civil servant, there are important timelines, timelines before which policy documents are to be finalized, timelines for submission of answers for the assembly questions or the parliament questions, timelines for preparing draft speeches for constitutional authorities, say for the governor's address or the finance minister's budget speech. They're all time bound. Specific timelines have to be followed. And when you have to follow specific timelines, decision making also has to be time bound. So the civil service exam preparation is also something which teaches you the value of time, the essence of time, how to manage your time, and how to go about adjusting the time schedule when you prepare, when you answer the. So coming to the mains, I think you have 9 papers now: qualifying English and Indian language. You have 1 essay paper, 4 papers on general studies, and 2 papers on the optional subject that you are choosing. I believe the CCEK's 1-year training program would give you, in-depth knowledge, in-depth learning material about the topics that come under general studies, and the kind of questions that come for the essay paper. So what the essay paper tests is not just the knowledge; it is again, your analytical skills on a policy question, on a policy framework. Say if there is a question related to the GST implementation, you need to know about the GST Act. You need to know about the system which was prevalent before the GST came into picture. Have new technological tools really help implementation of GST, really help the taxpayers, the practitioners, the officers, and the system to navigate through the various processes in the system. And you also need to analyze the pros and the cons, the advantages, the disadvantages. And in a question which asks you to suggest a new policy framework, you may perhaps need to analyze and prepare a framework where some of the drawbacks or the defects can be answered, can be understood and explained as to how a better or a more robust framework can be worked out. Similarly, in another question, may be related to, say, poverty alleviation. You know that, Kerala, we have achieved a major feat last year on November 1st, 2025, when we declared that, Kerala is free of absolute poverty. So how do you replicate an absolute, not absolute poverty, extreme poverty? So how do you replicate that extreme poverty eradication program in another state? So maybe a question in the essay or in any of the general studies paper would be relating to, or would be related to poverty alleviation or extreme poverty alleviation, or sustainable development goals, or balancing sustainable development with economic growth. So how do you try to bring in the success story of a state for replication, or for innovative replication in any other state? So for these kind of questions, these kind of essays, your in-depth knowledge of that topic, plus your analytical skills, your writing skills, etc., would be tested. Because how should an essay be structured? How should the your flow of thoughts be arranged? How should you analyze the topic from the introduction, from the background, from the present policy framework, the present policy perspective, and from there, how do you analyze the advantages and the disadvantages of that particular policy question, and how do you suggest the way forward? How do you come up with short term, intermediate term, and long term recommendations? So how do you structure your whole essay question? So therefore, when you write, when you practice such kind of essay questions, you would know how repeated practice would help you to improve upon your writing skills and your writing styles. So the CCEK's training modules, I'm sure, would have specific or specialized practice sessions on specific topics, specific essay topics as well, which would help you to fine tune your writing skills. And coming to the optional subject paper, I understand that there are subject experts who would be handling sessions on optional subjects, where they would take you through the syllabus, they would take you through the kind of questions that have come in the previous years, and they would help you to, help you to prepare your learning material for answering the optional subject paper as well. And finally, coming to the interview or the personality test. So CCEK every year organizes a whole host of practice sessions with where senior officers from the state government, where successful candidates from the recent batches, where young officers, young, old, senior, junior, interact with the aspirants, conduct mock sessions, mock interviews, help you to identify your weak areas, help you to do a SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, and then, help you to give answers in a way that would impress the interview board. Because when you present your answers before an interview board, along with your knowledge, your depth of knowledge, what is also important is the way that you give the answer, the way that you present, the way that you structure the flow of your answer. So the CCEK's practice sessions, I believe, would help you, prepare for the personality test as well. Help you fine tune your presentation styles, your logical flow, the flow of your thought process, and would guide you in such a way that you would be able to face the interview board with confidence, and in a manner that the interview board would get the impression that here is a candidate who knows the subject and who is confident. Here is a candidate who would be able to take decisions. Here is a candidate who analyzes the both sides of a policy question, and tries to come out with an answer. So here is a candidate who would consult seniors in government, who would consult line departments to work out a possible strategy or a possible answer for a complex policy solution. So I think, the 1 year long program that CCEK has worked out for you would help you to prepare for the prelims, the mains, and the interview and the civil service personality test in a manner that you would be able to face the exam with confidence and with strength of mind. So I would just like to remind you, or just tell you that all battles, all exams are not lost in the exam hall or in the battleground. The battles get lost sometimes in the mind, when the mind is not confident enough, or when the mind does not feel strong enough. So along with the preparation of the subjects, what you also need to do is the preparation of your mind, building your self confidence, building strength of mind, building your strengthening your mental framework, so that you would be able to face this long marathon with confidence and with strength and peace of mind. So the next 1 year, you need that determination, that grit, and that perseverance, that consistency, as you go about studying, as you go about doing attending these classes, as you go about having small group sessions and peer groups where you interact with your friends and colleagues to update your knowledge and to fine tune your learning skills. And what the CCEK offers you, I believe, would help you to navigate this marathon with ease and with confidence. So I wish all of you the very best, and all the best wishes to the aspirants, to their parents, and also to CCEK to, to meet the expectations and the aspirations of these young candidates. So with wishing all of you the very best, I declare this 1-year PCM program inaugurated. Thank you.